Hey guys, welcome to the MDC Talks. We are the Motion Dance Collective and we promote the creation, education and presentation of dance on film practice. Today we are doing a review, a critique of Quimera, which was created with the MDC alongside Neus Gil Cortes, who is with us here today. Thank you so much for coming. And we're just going to watch the film, we're going to talk through and try and recall some of these beautiful memories that have come from making this work. So, I will press play and let's get it going on. Let's see if it all plays nicely. We need to move a bit closer, right?
And we're in.
When's the last time you watched this, Neus?
Oof, I think it's been some months already.
James's opening shot is just when I think this was the first cut that the first shot that I watched. I think it was the first one that popped up on the list of everything, and literally having this long take as a beginning, I was like, oh my god, I can just sit back and just let that run, because it's like you don't really want to cut into it. It's so buff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was really well made, and I really like the contrast between the slowness of the camera and of her walk, and the franticness and the really speedy movement of everybody else. I think it works really well.
Yeah, we had quite a few takes of this. I remember. This was like maybe 6 or 7 takes.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, it's intricate as well.
Yeah.
I think that's what takes.
I think this changeover was the part for me that was kind of most important. Was like we were panning round behind them and getting that switch over of when we came back and started pushing in on Quimera. I think that was quite a tough decision, and it took us a little while to tune that in. Because obviously the timing of getting to her here when she sat down had to be quite precise, and I couldn't. There was obviously dancers in the way as well, so.
We tried to not hit you, but yeah, it's definitely, you have to be much more aware when you're dancing.
There was a reason though we couldn't hold this for longer. Because I remember being like, if we only could have had a couple more seconds just to come out a little bit more. I think we saw like some stuff in maybe some gear in the back, or there was some check.
Yeah,
there was something, in the back, but it's those little problems as well.
I think it's also because we were running autofocus for that.
Yeah, so it kept switching in and out of autofocus.
Yeah, and there was one tiny little pull in that shot already that was a little off, but it was like the best of a bad situation really, because no first AC.
But it's so funny, like even how it it changes the pace and the feel at the end of that scene.
This is beautiful.
That window one.
Her at the window. That looks really great.
In all of this, the lighting is insane.
Yeah.
It's just in the right spots. Like, look how the wall's just backlit there, and then she's got this light just hitting her hard on the right.
Well, it did take us a few hours to light that.
It took us a few hours to colour.
I mean, when we got into this space, this room, this room was full of stuff, wasn't it?
Oh God, yeah.
We had to empty this whole room.
Yeah, it was a favor from a neighbor. So yeah,
right.
So we wanted to get quite a specific atmosphere. So we actually transported a wall, which you can see later on. So we kind of like had to make the room into what we imagine would be her house, because she's quite to start with, she's quite a strict and formal character, and so it had to all
fit with that. Yeah.
She's so good. It was such a pleasure to work with her.
You know what it is that you can't fix a bad performance. And so when you've got such great performers on screen, you don't really need to, you just need to help carry that journey.
Yeah.
I'm not cutting to fix something that went wrong with the performance. I'm just cutting to make sure I honor what they're doing.
Yeah,
this wall.
That's the wall.
that was a fake wall.
The yellow, it's a fake wall.
Really?
Yeah. That Nick and I transported walking from my house.
What?
Yeah.
I had no idea about that. That's awesome.
Yeah. And
so this was the book that the piece was based upon?
Yeah, so it's Don Quixote
okay.
By Cervantes. And for me, it was important that even though the audience might not read the title, it was important that it was
featured,
that book that she was reading.
Right.
Yeah. And I love this moment that James went a little bit sooner than the action to
Right.
anticipate a little bit what was going to happen.
That was not intentional.
What was not?
Me getting there sooner.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was a happy mistake on my part. I misjudged her movement.
That's great.
Well, we need to
But-
do that
Happy
more.
mistakes are
It
good.
just makes it.
But,
It's
you know,
really good.
As
Yeah.
long as you make the mistake with confidence, it can
Exactly.
it can make the cut.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's foregrounding, isn't it?
Yeah.
Such a term.
Foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing. Sorry.
Yeah, in a sense, yeah. Oh my god, I was so scared for her doing this. Because I think did she have
She's
a bad back
injured.
while she was
Yeah,
doing it?
she was injured in her neck.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
And this moment, that's a moment, for instance, that you only get in the film because it's so intense that she's looking directly into the camera. And of course, in a performance, you cannot get that. And I also like the rhythm of its editing, that it really...
It gets faster. So
Yeah,
this is such a
it's the
joyful
movement.
scene. The music really enhances it, but it's such. I think the whole thing is actually. I don't think there's any like particularly sad moments. It's all very quirky, but it's just got so much joy in it. I think.
Yeah. Oh, and this was funny. We had to play something for her, like
Right. the
like a
influencer.
really kind
What
of.
stuff are you playing?
It was kind of the 80s or 90s music. I don't really remember, but it was, for her to get into the mood of just going for it and having a crazy little dance.
I enjoyed editing this so much.
I think this is one of my favorite scenes to shoot.
Really?
Actually, yeah.
That's insane.
For me, it was hard because it has to show progression and it has to show repetition and boredom and time passing. But of course, in a film, you have very little time to show that. So it was finding that balance.
Yeah.
And this scene was so much fun to make.
I mean, I want to ask you specifically about this scene because for me, this was the first one that we shot,
Yeah.
right? And we kind of got there, and I'd seen the movement, but we hadn't really talked about how we were going to put the movement in this space. And I'm pretty sure the first thing I said was, "This should be a wanna."
There should be
A wanna, like one take,
Oh,
where
yeah,
we
yeah.
move through the
and
whole
then
thing.
I got a bit like, oh no.
Yeah, and I kind of had to sell you on the idea. I mean, what was that like process of?
Yeah, no, for sure. In my head, we were gonna be able to stop and start, and obviously you're the expert, so it does make a lot of sense to do it as a one-off thing. But it meant that the dancers had to run.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was quite a logistical challenge.
Yeah, and then this is a relatively public space, so we also had to ask really kindly for people to not
Be in the
pass.
background.
Yeah.
I think
In
we
fact,
still
We
even
actually
see.
There's a guy.
Just a little bit
we
of
just
sunlight.
fade him out.
Yeah,
So he's still
exactly.
catching. There he is.
Yeah.
There he is.
Ah, yeah, he's
Just a little
perfect.
catching. We'll put an arrow on that for those who missed it. But no, it's good to rejoice in our mishaps.
But yeah, I mean that's probably quite a scary thing coming from, kind of being thrown in with our first scene, and then all of a sudden it's like we're going to do something quite radically different than what you had in mind, probably.
But
But you
it
went
did
with
make
it. You
sense.
went
It
with
did
it.
make sense because it was her walking through a landscape. So I did understand it, even though it meant that we had to change it on the spot.
I remember the joy of finding that moment of Daniel.
Oh God, yeah.
His face.
When we were editing
Nails
it, we
just-
were laughing so
gone.
much.
We were like, yep, that has to be in.
Yeah, he's great also here. And this is another scene that is very different in the film, the way it looks, than in the performance, because
Right.
of course you have all this really crazy background, but at the same time it's really urban, and I think it just transforms a little bit the meaning of what it is. Oh, and it was raining. Which
It was raining a lot. It doesn't look like it's raining that much
Yeah, it
here,
doesn't look like it's raining as hard.
but it was hammering it down.
But if you look in the puddles, it definitely is something's happening there. Do you think we could have enhanced that in grade? If we
We would
wanted
need to backlight to highlight the rain.
Right.
We would have had to have actually lit the space.
Okay.
But it
Yeah, 'cause
gives
it's
an
daytime as
atmosphere.
well. Yeah, it definitely does. Yeah. Yeah, because then you just suddenly notice it. Daniel's so captivating that you don't even see the puddle.
Yeah, but actually the puddle is also very often used in films, isn't it? To use the reflection of it. So it was another happy accident, probably.
I love the staging of this scene.
What made you choose these 3 particular items? Was there a reasoning to the items that went into his map? Or did you have lots of different ones and try out? 'Cause I remember seeing a few. I don't think you saw.
This scene is a little bit her trying to fix his anger or his desperation by completely the wrong means. So one of them is food, which is a little bit a metaphor of what we try to do sometimes with the problems in countries that have famine and stuff like that. You know, the solution to it is not to give them food, but to provide them with a fair market and the possibility of actually making it themselves. The other one is a newspaper, so is the news feeding fake news. The other one is plastic. It's kind of like the way we use the planet. So all of them have a metaphor for me.
Right.
Yeah. And then this is funny. We
the
used
rope scene.
we used the.
It's not there anymore.
It's not there. We used her entrance for a scene that we took out in order to
Transition from one to the
transition.
other.
Yeah, which was one thing that I learned on the day, that actually, if she's traveling through, we need those moments of her entering a new space.
Well, it's good that we could steal that moment from another scene anyway. Because I think we have her enter in this scene, but from the back, don't we? Like an over the shoulder.
Yeah, but it was better to contextualize it a little bit of her looking before. Yeah, that was Omar.
Yeah, that was
Omar's editing.
Yeah, that was like that was a proud moment of being able to join them together. and go,
Yeah.
Oh no, we can just take this.
Genius.
It's fine. Like,
Yeah.
For those of people who don't know, Neus cut a whole scene, which was a rope circus duet, and so this scene is online now for people to see, so you can see that scene online.
We can link that.
But it takes a lot of bravery to be able to chop up your work like that, and I think
It was painful.
Exactly.
Killing your babies.
It really does.
Yeah.
But then it just goes to show that the filmic process is, again, never ending. When you get to the editing suite, you're only still at the beginning, really, of that journey. And to be able to go, let me choreograph again. Because you do that in the choreography suite. What happened there?
Yeah.
Looks like we lost the page.
Yeah, that was very important also because that scene it's really, really beautiful and it's really beautifully shot. But we felt that it didn't fit. I remember it was also Anna kind of giving us the green light of like, guys, if it didn't quite belong there for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was.
And it was only in the context of the film. Which it was great to kind of go, okay, cool, it doesn't, right, so let's just get rid of it. And let's have a look at what it looks like gotten rid of, and then if it's still, if we need to put it back, we can put it back, but it's good to try and be open to that. So no, it was all for the right reasons. I think it really works as a piece now. Yeah,
it works as a film in itself, which is...
Because if the wheel was involved as well, the German wheel and other things like that, then maybe the rope would have... Remember when you said... There was a first idea of her walking, then the German wheel would like go past, and there was lots of
wheels.
Wheels?
Bicycle wheels.
Yeah, bicycle wheels rolling.
Which happens in the performance one, but it was in the what we call the surrealist collage, which is the traveling scene that we were talking about.
Right.
But it was going to be a logistical nightmare, also because the German wheel is a 2-meter diameter monster. And I don't think we would have got permission to film anywhere with it.
But I mean, all of this, talking about cutting scenes and kind of messing around with the
coloring
stage
buff.
version that I think that's where having a standalone editor who isn't involved in the production part of it is kind of invaluable, because we, you know, if we're looking at the footage, we have all of the baggage from the shoot,
Right.
and you don't have any of that baggage, so you
Right.
can just look at exactly what's in front of you, and you get like a really clear sense of what the content is.
Right.
Whereas we might see it as the circumstances of the shoot, and you'll have further baggage from the stage version as well.
For sure.
So it's good to have someone who's kind of really objective about what the footage is that's right there.
Yeah.
And I think that's really key in terms of, you know, kind of a standalone editor who isn't putting multiple hats on.
Right.
Yeah. And do you want to talk about the coloring? Because I requested that we used a coloring that was kind of similar to Wes Anderson style.
Grand Budapest
just
Hotel vibe. Yeah. And Delicatessen by Jean-Pierre last name.
Jeanette.
Yeah, there we
Yeah.
go. Teamwork. Yes.
Was that hard to
It
do
was
the
so much
coloring?
fun. I was like, yes, I've always wanted to color in that way. Like, dope. Yeah, it was so much fun to be able to put those. It was like so many different tints of color, and then you'd go past. There's like an industry standard, right, where you don't. I guess where you want to make sure the skin is on the line of the vector scope and everything's like kind of clean, but in some of these French productions and Wes Anderson's work as well, you see him go past that on a color, I don't know the right way to phrase it, but on a color scope or on a hue of the whole thing in general. So the skin would turn green and the skin would turn as red as the scene. And it was so much fun to be able to find a balance of that, because there were moments where we did keep the skin normal, but there was also moments where it was really green and it was really like reddish and warm, but then all the other colors were coming out. It was so much fun. So much color, so much saturation.
Yeah, and it's
It was really
quite
cool.
it's quite unusual and freeing to have license to do that as well, because obviously it's quite a bold choice and it's a very stylistic choice, and not very many people are going to make that choice, because not many people are going to have films that suit that style. So yeah, it's not something that I've done before in grading, so it was kind of interesting to find where that limit was, because I remember I did a first pass, and then we spoke about it, didn't we? And we were like, it's nice, but I don't think it's far enough.
Yeah.
And it was just like finding, okay, actually, yeah, we can push this a lot further than we have, and then we pushed it a bit more, and then we were kind of like, yeah, it's kind of there, and then it's just really going.
Yeah, and
past.
then going back and looking at films like Delicatessen and going, wow, they really pushed it.
like
'Cause
it's
we're pushing
really
it like,
out.
oh, maybe that's too much, like maybe, and then it's like, oh my god, like this whole scene is green.
Yeah.
And it's really cool. It's so yeah, it was really nice to be able to do that, and I love those movies, the look of all of those types of films. That what is it? It's not like that teal and
No,
it's not a teal and orange look
teal and
thing.
orange. It's
But yeah, I don't know what. If
like
anyone
almost-
knows what that word
It's
is,
like burned for me.
yeah.
It's like the colors are saturated but burned. At the same time, it's like
Right.
a really strong
Right.
Mediterranean light
Yeah.
that is yellow and very.
Yeah, I mean,
intense.
it's kind of like they just picked a color and they let everything in that scene adopt that color,
Yeah.
and just
Right.
because normally when you're grading, you would look for, like, cinema normally adopts color contrast.
Okay.
Whereas this is like the opposite of color contrast.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, you know, let's not have opposing things that complement and
Right.
create depth. Let's just let everything take one color. And it's just a really unusual way of working, so it was really fun.
Yeah, and it helps suit the quirky. I have a question about this. I keep saying quirky, and I hope it's.
I love it.
I know you love
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
I
yeah.
hope you
Totally,
love that
totally.
word.
I feel.
But where did this quirky sensibility in your movement come from? Well, did it come from like your work with other people, like with Hofesh and all these different companies, or did it come just from you and where you've grown up?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of personal taste, an intention to grab a movement that is really, really expressive. So, for instance, I take inspiration from cartoons.
Right.
Because
Okay, I can see that.
you have to understand their emotions really quickly, and it's done physically, like you
Yeah.
know. So Yeah, so that will of being really expressive, and then also being really human. So for a while I was trying to understand what makes a movement look artificial or very stylized to the point that it's kind of removed, and what makes it look human and relatable. And then I realized that it's a little bit like what Gaudí or Gaudí says, that there are no straight lines in nature. So asymmetries, broken lines, broken axes are really relatable, because that's how we all are. We're all a bit crooked. We're all a bit kind of, you know, there are no straight lines in our bodies either. So I'm interested in that.
That's so amazing, because like you go to any class or technique classes, and they encourage you to find lines, to find these. But it's good, because it's good to learn how to be I think you need to know how to be symmetrical in order to become asymmetrical.
For sure.
And in a nice way, you know, like in a way to construct it. Because what point am I trying to make? Is that in when you're making work, the ability to take from technique and look more inside or outside on nature and what's real, what actually exists, is what we need to return to. And it's so mad to see that choreography like that, to be able to edit choreography like that didn't have like a clear like line and, you know, very straightforward. I had no idea where Daniel was going to move. So how you filmed that, imagine if you were handheld on Daniel's scene, it would have been a whole different experience, because it's just like, whoa, what's going on, you know?
Yeah.
So it's really refreshing to see that movement quality, because I love doing that sort of movement in my work as well. But that comes from breaking away from technique and breaking away from things that I've learned, and kind of looking at, well, how am I as a human? I'm not symmetrical at all.
Yeah.
My brain doesn't work that way all the time, you know. So.
Yeah, but it's true that it starts from technique in order to break it. And then this story lends itself also very much to it, because, and again, it's going back to the color palette, it's about her craziness, it's about the fantasy world that she's in and that she's leading us through. So we're saying the world as she sees it. So there's a certain craziness in the coloring scheme, in the movement, in the scenes themselves, and this combination of humor and a metaphor of something bigger, and something that is also quite deep and important, but that is seen through the eyes of a crazy person. It's like the Joker in the medieval courts. They were the ones that were able to talk about the real problems.
Like the stand-up comics that we have
Yeah,
now in the
exactly.
world, they're able to actually voice and speak, like, you know, speak the truth, you know, unfiltered. Wow. It's awesome. All right,
Deep.
look, here's what I think I should do. I just saw Anna outside. I think we should take a quick break, come back, and talk about this transition from stage to screen.
Definitely.
Yeah, what do you think?
Let's do it.
Guys, thank you for joining us. We're going to take a quick break. Check us out on the second video, where we're going to be talking about the transition of making work from stage and taking it into the screen space. This is MDC Talks.